do you understand in 5 years that crypto is going to be extremely boring? It will be really sad that we're creating a technology or giving a technology to TradFi to just benefit the same guys that have been actually making the whole financial system extremely unfair.
Money never sleeps, pal.
Welcome to Money Never Sleeps. Sharp riffs, big ideas, and real insights from smart people. I'm Pete Townsend. Let's go. So listen, folks, I'm thrilled to welcome back Alejandro Gutierrez to the show for our 2026 predictions episode. This is his 11th appearance overall on Money Never Sleeps through the years. Alejandro is the leader of Solana Super Team. He is a crypto, DeFi, fintech veteran, been in this space for a while. But this is his first episode in the new era of Money Never Sleeps, given we just started last week with Garrett Cassidy. Sharper, faster video and audio. So if you like this format, please subscribe wherever you're watching or listening, whether it's YouTube, Spotify, Apple, whatever, so that you can keep running right alongside us. So Alejandro, welcome back.
Pete, thank you very much for having me again. Always a pleasure.
Awesome. Wonderful. So listen, this is our 2026 predictions episode. You and I revisited our 2025 predictions recently when we did episode 300 live in Dublin. So check out the back catalog if you want to see if we were right. The first one for me is that what looked like boring on-chain infrastructure will turn out to be the primitive that enables the next big wave. The next breakout on-chain product doesn't always start as an app. It starts as a utility. And if you want to look at a few different examples, right? Like stablecoins, those look like faster crypto dollars. They enabled payments, treasuries, settlement, and machine money. Now they're a $305 billion asset class, okay? And they're driving TradFi on-chain being one of the core components of that, right? Tokenized T-bills. You know, it looked like crypto recreating TradFi, but now it's enabling on-chain collateral, yield, 24/7 liquidity, right? And so I think that's what we're going to see happen is that 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of them will start to unveil themselves in 2026 that people point to and say, well, is this kind of like, you know, the Stripe 8 lines of code that enabled developers to put credit cards online really easily?
Yeah.
You know, which sounded really boring. Look at Stripe now.
Infrastructure sometimes tends to be boring, right?
Yep. And I think all of this stuff is going to become very basic foundation level rather than, hey, shiny new toy level. Like we'll see tokenized treasuries show up in cash management policies rather than pitch decks.
I was chatting to someone who told me, like, do you understand in 5 years that crypto is going to be extremely boring?
Yeah, totally. I can see it happening.
Yeah.
So on the anti-boring side, right? If this was something that I took away from my time in Amsterdam 2 weeks ago at the Techstars ABN AMRO Future Finance Accelerator Demo Day, and I wrote about this recently, just actually it was published this morning, and I'm calling it the geometry of fintech. But one of the things that clicked in my head is that I think in 2026, we're going to see the world will realize that blockchains weren't built for humans, right? That they were actually built and make more sense for machines rather than people. And so, you know, the questions I ask is, what if basic crypto UX wasn't meant to get much better? What if it was just, hey, the machines are going to take over? What if we just misidentified the user? Let's optimize it for AI to move digital assets, crypto, stablecoins, real world assets on chain, whatever you want to call it, to be able to move those just through an AI agent.
I fully agree. Agree.
So I see that happen. What's your first one for 2026, Alejandro?
First one is we'll have a big wave of privacy that we are already seeing, but, and this might be a little bit, inflammatory, is not for the right reasons. I think this is going to be driven by big institutions instead of actually the consumers, which is a shame, right? Because there has been a lot of people fighting for privacy. Suddenly institutions demand privacy and everybody says, okay, we need privacy. The big push from it are going to be regulators and institutionals demanding actually or shaping this narrative, right? Which is pretty unfortunate, right? Because at the end of the day, There has been a subsection and cohort of people that have been just advocating for the rights of privacy that sometimes is needed, right? But it has been always seen as a negative context in the crypto space.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, Alex Pruden from Aleo, I chatted with him years ago about this, and that Aleo is an L1 chain that is privacy infused, right? And his statement was that, listen, on chain with blockchain, privacy is not the default. In your day-to-day human life, privacy is the default.
Correct.
So how do we bring that for humans? And that one of the first things now that is on their list, Aleo, now that they're, I think, going to testnet, is payroll, right? That their blockchain enables payroll to be distributed on chain with privacy. Now that feels like a pretty good reason to do it, right?
Nobody wants to publicly disclose how much they are earning on a monthly basis, right?
Yeah.
That's simple. There are so many different applications for like why privacy should be just a normal standard, right? And I believe that there are going to be a big bunch of private tools and frameworks that are going to be exploding in 2026. But as I say, unfortunately, I don't think this is going to be because like consumers are pushing it. It's because the regulators and because of institutions are forcing this to happen.
Is traditional finance integrating on chain or infiltrating on chain?
Ooh, I hope it's not the latter, because it has been saying for all these years, it would be really sad that we're creating a technology or giving a technology to TradFi to just benefit the same guys that have been actually making the whole financial system extremely unfair.
But you can't turn it off. That's the best thing. You can't put this back in the box. And so I can live my sovereign monetary life on chain without ever touching an institution.
Correct.
Right? But for the
Correct.
institutions to come on and do this, they need to do it a certain way. And I've spoken with a few folks recently who were kind of dismayed at the thought of TradFi moving on chain. And they're coming at it from a pure crypto native example and background. And I said, well, listen, I think we're going through this bridge moment of we needed to build this bridge so TradFi could move on chain. And then I think once we get them all over to the other side, they'll start to adapt. And I think we'll see kind of a middle ground develop in the years to come beyond 2026 that will get us to the right context for how to have individuals and institutions operating on the same rails with the right degree of privacy that they may or may not want, you know?
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Absolutely. All right. Your second one. This one's super interesting.
Yeah, it's quantum and blockchain convergence. I started seeing it now, and I believe that 2026 is going to be a big explosion out of it, because suddenly the threat of quantum computing is kind of past that phase of being completely theoretical, and now it's just becoming a little bit more real. And we are seeing some hints out of that, like let's say Solana just released testnet post-quantum signatures, which is a big push into that direction. But also that there were some comments actually made by Anatoly in these regards, and things that need to be done right now. So in that case, we are not going to just face big scares in the next 5-6 years, right?
Yeah.
I believe this one is just has been under the radar, but in 2026 is going to be a big explosion, because there is a lot of people talking about in the grassroots level. And when you start hearing those conversations, I can tell you a year ago, I wouldn't hear a single conversation about this. And suddenly there's a lot of people talking about it. So I think that's a great thermometer to see what's going to come.
And I now have clarity on the problem. And thanks to Nick Carter from Castle Island Ventures and the On the Brink podcast, because he wrote about this recently. And the fear is, okay, if someone can work backwards from those known public keys that belong to Satoshi, you can work backwards through quantum computing back
Yeah.
to the private key, and you can take Satoshi's coins.
Yeah.
That's the problem. And we need to address that.
Yeah. You have also the brute force component that would like taking over some of the chains, and there are some other possibilities as well on predictions for passwords, etc., etc.
Yeah.
But this one that you describe is the one that is more applicable into the crypto space, and I believe it's good to see protocols starting looking in this direction and not waiting until, okay, we have finally a quantum proper hardware, a proper computer that can do it. I think we need to start preparing from now, and seeing the industry taking this threat seriously I think is important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Can't wait to see what's going to happen on that in 2026. All right. So you've done your 2. I've done my 2. We have one more because we got to get to 5.
Yeah.
Right. Any crazy ideas that you think you're going to see happen in 2026? And I'll see if I can overlay any of mine on top of that.
I don't know you're crazy, but one that probably should have been here is X402 properly apply and implemented into day-to-day payments.
Yep.
Like using stable coins for day-to-day payments. That is not the case right now. And probably, I believe X402 could be the channel for this to happen.
Yep, absolutely. For those who don't know, HTTP 402 was something that was created back in the early days of the internet in the 90s, which was payments online, and it was enabling payments online. But it was just tagged, the 402 protocol, whatever you want to call it, was tagged as reserved for future use because people just couldn't get to terms with how we're going to actually move money online. And we've had what's been created on top of that through fintech has been kind of a significant abstraction away from the very core of being able to move money online, right? And so X402 was then created. Few people have worked on that over the years, but then Coinbase now have, and Google, I think we're working on that to get it to a point of being able to very simply use the X402 protocol to send money on chain.
A few startups here in Ireland as well working on it. The guys from Latinum have ChatPay working on it as well.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, Alejandro, thank you for jumping in and doing this with me. Let's revisit them probably come September like we did this year.
Yes.
And don't forget, everybody, please subscribe on your favorite platform. We have more short, sharp episodes coming fast, and we will see you next year.
Thank you very much, Pete.
Sleeps, pal.
Thanks, Alejandro.